Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the October 2024 Parks and Recreation Board meeting to order. Before we move on to the agenda items, I'd like to acknowledge our hybrid meeting format. Board meetings and the public can now attend in person or via Teams. I will now take roll call. Please say here when I call your name and position number. Position 1, Laura Borner.
Here.
Position 2, Amelia.
Here.
Position 3, Nick.
Here.
Position 4, Sheila. She is out. Position 5 is Manny. He is out. Position 6 is Maggie. She is out. Position 7 is myself. I am here. Position 8, Barbie. There she is.
Perfect timing.
And Jace.
Here.
Fantastic. In addition, the following city staff are in attendance: Parks and Recreation Director Nick Stroop, Parks Planning and Development Manager Aaron Milner, and Cameron Colvin, our City of Bothell Long Range Planner. Welcome.
Thank you.
I will now invite a motion to approve our September minutes in order and content.
So moved.
Second. The motion was put on the table by Jason, seconded by, I'll give it to you, Malia. You got it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, public comment. Welcome. Hello. Either of you like to provide public comment?
I don't have anything to say, actually. I'm just here to learn. Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself, though?
Oh, I'm Sarah. I'm with Friends of North Creek Forest, nonprofit organization that helps the city take care of that 54-acre parcel of land in North Creek Forest. I'm just here to learn and listen.
I'm Dave Bain, also with Friends of North Creek Forest and one Bothell, Shelton Forest Stewardship Association, and probably half the groups you saw at Sustainability. And let's see, one Bothell is especially interested in getting involved in the tree ordinance development that we're just getting started on. And the city golf course is a good place to put a lot of new trees for the city. We're also interested in trees throughout the city. I guess we're also interested in a permanent name. We have some concern that I don't know which Wayne it's named after, but there was a Wayne who was notorious as a war criminal against Native Americans who places like Fort Wayne, Indiana, named after him. Moving away from the Wayne name as soon as possible would be a good thing, and I think as the Parks Board, you're supposed to initiate the naming process and try doing that again. We did it several years ago with the city council, trying to synchronize that with the plan for other parts of the city. From Friends of North Creek Forest, we're concerned that master planning doesn't seem to be in the budget for many years to come. We'd kind of like to expedite that. Also, several years ago, we were one public meeting away from finalizing the master planning process, and it got put on hold. Hasn't resumed since. So, there probably won't be a lot of changes involved. The grants we use to purchase it, the most we can do is put trails in, and the least we can do is put trails in. So, it should be a fairly simple process of figuring out where the trails go. We could just use the social trails that are already there, and we plan to do ADA accessible trails so that people can get into the forest regardless of their physical condition. From the bottom to the top, there are some fairly lengthy level routes along the top and bottom of the forest. Make those ADA accessible. Do good things for people on hot summer days. The Deltonview Forest received some money from the Clean Water Act settlement and starting to plan how to use that. Mainly be for adding additional vegetation to the forest to try to increase biodiversity. And probably also try to bring in some watering systems to ease the job of watering all those plants over the summer. Nice things at North Creek Forest where we brought in these very large containers and ran hoses out of those and we go to the restoration sites. I think we'd like to do that in Shelton Forest as well. I'll stop there unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. It is a very exciting board meeting today. I guess I'll start sort of on the tree topic. It's very exciting. We're going to be hearing about the urban forest management plan that's kicking off. We've had some conversations about this in the past, but if you're not aware, there's a section in the Bothell Municipal Code for the Parks Board about our role in trees throughout the city. I'll read a little bit of what it is. It says, the city of Bothell values the protection, preservation, and enhancement of the natural environment and wildlife habitats that surround us. The board shall develop and monitor a master plan governing tree planting, maintenance, and removal that will provide for the diversity of spaces and age composition of our community forest. And it goes on to list a bunch of duties that the board shall have. And maybe that comes as a surprise to some of you, but it's very exciting to be a part of this process. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you this evening. I wanted to just do a little bit other context building, go back to talk about some things that have happened and then look towards the future. It's been about a few weeks now. There was the mixer with council and the other boards and commissions. I was unable to attend, but I thought we would just debrief a little bit here and share for those who were able to attend what that was like, what you learned, what your takeaways were. Did anybody go?
I
You
went.
went, yeah?
I don't remember if I saw you there.
I wasn't able to
I
go.
saw
I know
Nick.
Sheila went.
Yeah. I guess I'll start. I thought it was great. I think that there were a lot of important conversations that we had that could have been the start of a lot of really cool maybe subcommittee projects overall, just within the various boards and commissions. A lot of great information provided to us from the council as well. Updates on DEI stuff. Those types of comments stood out to me a lot. Looks like there's something in the works for a permanent committee for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Likely, I believe it was not taking place this reappointment cycle, I don't think. But yeah, those are my main takeaways. Everyone out there being friendly.
I got there late, so I missed a lot of the briefing. It's great. It's something I've never heard before. Spent a lot of time talking to Blaine. She's excited she's at the NRPA this week, which is a big conference. That was great. I spent some time with the Arts Commission board member, and he was kind of frustrated. He'd like more resources from the city to help him learn more. That's kind of the gist of it, really. And, nothing jumped out, I'm sorry.
Any other comments? Okay. I'll give an update on the dog statue project. So you recall, the Bothell Parks Foundation reached out to me with a sort of leftover donation, about $6,000 that was meant to go towards replacing the wooden dog statue at Doug Allen Field. In our conversation, it was recommended that we reach out to Doug Allen's family, Steve and Joanne, and I did that. Hi, welcome. They were interested in pursuing the project further. So I brought that back to you all. We thought it'd be a good idea to take it to Arts Commission. So on Monday of this week, I took it to Arts Commission, and they were really interested in the project. That's very exciting. Right now, they're forming a subcommittee that could work with our subcommittee. I know Jace and Sheila have been very interested in this project. They gave some kind of interesting estimates about what a budget might be. Apparently,
We're all waiting for.
yeah, that's really what we wanted, were the resources, connections to artists, and just guidance. And apparently the bronze statues out front here were about 10,000, and that was a while ago. So Danae actually threw out a number of budgeting 20,000 for this project, but also suggested that there is a public art fund that could supplement what we are already bringing to the table. It would need to be approved by council, but it all sounds like it's moving in a positive direction. They were also interested in a joint meeting. Blaine and I have talked about maybe at our November meeting, sort of talking about what that looks like amongst ourselves. If we're going to do it, it's a big lift, and so I suggested we have several agenda items so we can be really focused on, like the dog statue, like art at the Inclusive Playground Project, talk about the landing, and really hone in on it. Any questions about that? Yeah.
I would just note that when we're looking at the statue, it could be a lot of different medias. It doesn't necessarily have to be brass. One of the concerns we have with any kind of metal sculpture is that we've seen sort of an uptick in vandalism with those. So it'd be something we'd have to, talk through and try to figure out what works best. We'd probably do a call for artists and let them kind of propose to us what they think works.
Speaking of, I guess, a call for artists, was that estimate including any time, resources, or talent that the community members we might be estimating would want to contribute? Are they allowed to contribute?
Well, I think that would be sort of like a budget that would set the context for what we're
Okay.
kind of looking for, and then you would do a call for artists, and then I assume that they would present a budget. I've never done a art thing, but.
They'd present a number of different options to consider, and there'd be a jury that would decide.
Okay. A couple upcoming events. This Saturday is Arbor Day. I plan on being there. It's at Blythe Park this year. Anything you want to add, staff, about?
It will be 10 till noon.
Okay.
Out at Blythe Park, we'll be meeting in the small shelter, then we'll go over to the plant site.
I've seen it. It's very cool. And then I'm sure Aaron will talk about this, but coming up next week, there's the open house for Park at Bothell Landing at City Hall, 6 to 7:30. The city calendar has a ton of events happening. It's sort of mind-boggling, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but coming up very quickly on Monday, October 14th, 11 to 1, is an Indigenous Peoples Day event. I went last year to their event at Mobius Hall, and it was very good. This year, it sounds like it might be a little bit different. They're calling it Our Kinship with Salmon, Indigenous Traditions and Sustainability. So a lot of you guys have kids in school, but then maybe a day off, so good opportunity to check it out. Also within the city, there's a lot of work being done with comprehensive plan and budget, which it was just emailed out in the last couple of days. So it's available online to review. And it sounds like in the next weeks and months, there'll be lots of meetings and public hearings about the budget. So I wanted to say anything about what's in the budget.
Well, the big kickoff is this next Tuesday, so Kyle will be presenting the budget, and it's what you can see online. We've already put it out there for the public to view, but Kyle will be presenting that to the council. The way that it works is we do that presentation, and then we take questions. We do a number of public hearings. There's like you mentioned, a lot of different meetings that will happen over the next couple months as we go through the budget, both the operations budget and the capital budget, and then it will all come together at the end for approval. So there'll be a lot of opportunity for public comment. There'll be a lot of opportunity certainly to reach out to your council members if there's things that you would like to have a discussion about. But it is published and it's out there for everyone's review, and certainly once you've taken a look at that, and if you have questions, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to really anyone at the city.
I have a couple questions. Maybe we'll save it for the end.
Sure.
Yeah? Okay, let's do that. Cool. All right, any other comments? Jump in? All right. Oh, trick or treat on Main Street, sorry.
Love it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I think we'll move to our first guest speaker here today, Cameron Colvin. Excited to learn what you've got going on.
Sure. So yeah, thank you all for having me here this evening. My name is Cameron Colvin. I'm a long-range planner in the Community Development Department. So our department's been very heavily involved in the recent comprehensive plan updates. And then we're going to be building off of that with a couple different upcoming projects. One of which being the upcoming urban forest management plan. I'll get my screen shared here. So tonight will mostly be an informational session to kind of give y'all an overview of kind of the anticipated project schedule and scope of work, what will be involved. And then also provide an opportunity for you all to kind of provide initial thoughts, opportunity for me to answer any questions and considerations that maybe the city should take into account as we begin this work. So just to kind of quickly set the stage, Bothell has a long kind of history revolving around forestry. Logging played a important role in Bothell's early economy in the late 1800s, but unfortunately during this time, we lost a lot of our old growth forests, and as quickly as the early 1900s, many of those same logging operations had declined. So if we contrast that and fast forward to today, many of our community members enjoy and advocate for the preservation of Bothell's natural areas. We consistently hear at public events that our trails, parks and open spaces, and trees are some of the community's most valued assets. We have been recognized as a Tree City USA community since, I believe, 2000. And there are many ongoing efforts to preserve and replant trees throughout the city, both by the city and our many community partners. So as we know, trees provide a multitude of benefits to the city. Not only makes it a more attractive place to live, but trees help purify our air. They provide much needed shade to reduce temperatures and energy costs. They absorb a lot of water and help reduce stormwater runoff, provide necessary habitat, and have also been shown to contribute to improved mental health and property values. So Whitney did a great job at the beginning of this meeting of providing some context on why we need an urban forest management plan. To build off of that a little bit, this was also identified as a priority in City Council's 2040 vision. So particularly, they were interested in identifying areas of town where we are currently lacking street trees to provide necessary shade. And then also looking at initiating some programs to help protect larger, more mature trees on private property. Our comprehensive plan, which is in the process of being updated for adoption at the end of this year, also includes multiple goals related to tree preservation, replanting, tree canopy coverage, and reducing conflicts between our trees and our infrastructure like sidewalks and roadways. So the urban forest management plan will be building upon this work, gather some necessary data that we need to really support implementation. So this project is being supported by a combination of funding sources. Primarily, we have a grant from the Department of Commerce, which is not only supporting this project, but it also supported our recent electric vehicle study that was presented to council a couple of weeks ago. It is also going to be supporting another upcoming project, the city's first climate action plan, which will be identifying or focusing on greenhouse gas emissions and how we make reductions there. So we're supplementing that grant funding source with ARPA funds as well to support this project. Most of the work for this project will be conducted over the course of the next year with certain deliverables being due to Department of Commerce by June 30th. So a little bit of a quicker timeline there. This will be a collaborative effort across multiple city departments involving community development, public works, parks and recreation, as well as GIS. We are planning on bringing on a consultant to support with some of the more technical aspects of the project. So we have issued a request for proposals and are currently in the process of reviewing those. We're anticipating noticing an award early next month. And then we are planning to provide you all with periodic updates in addition to the Planning Commission and City Council as we kind of move throughout this process. So we anticipate that Bothell's urban forest management plan will kind of resemble or follow a similar format to other surrounding jurisdictions. A couple of examples of other communities that already have similar plans in place include the City of Shoreline, City of Kirkland, and City of Seattle. So we've kind of broken up this project into kind of 4 main phases with community engagement planned throughout. The first 3 tasks are kind of more focused on information gathering, and that'll really inform how we prioritize goals and actions from there. I'll dive into each of these in a little bit more detail. So first off, we'll be kind of looking at our existing plans, policies, and programs that affect trees throughout the city with a fresh lens. Looking at how effective they are at protecting trees throughout the city, comparing those with neighboring jurisdictions to determine best practices, and then identifying any potential gaps or areas for improvement. So a couple of examples, our critical areas ordinance, as well as our shoreline protections, are kind of some of the key pieces that provide those protections, but we also have sections in our zoning code that relate to tree preservation and landscaping. And also in our design and construction standards, there's approved species lists and standards for how street trees and other trees are planted during development. And this is also a good opportunity for us to kind of align our work with some regional efforts. So King County has a great 30-year forestry plan. I think PSRC has some similar work that they're doing as well. So next, we will be updating some of our tree canopy data. So this will be mapping tree cover throughout the city using satellite, aerial, and LiDAR imagery to show how trees are distributed and the percentage of the city that has tree cover. So the map that I have up on the right is from a 2016 assessment that was done in partnership with the King County Conservation District. As part of this project, we will be kind of cleaning up and updating this for a better comparison to some more recent data that we have, so that we can use this as a baseline to track canopy change over time. Obviously, since 2016, the city of Bothell has experienced a lot of development. And so, yeah, this will be a good way for us to kind of see which areas of town are being affected and how we can best prioritize either new plantings or protections.
Quick question, what is LiDAR imagery? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So LiDAR is just topographical data. So they use satellites and light or lasers to measure height differences. So you can kind of use that as a tool to capture different vegetation elevation differences. So as mentioned, some of this work has already been started. So our stormwater department is in the process of updating their stormwater master plan. And as part of that, they are looking at forested areas that provide stormwater and water quality benefits. And so they've been working with a consultant to update our tree canopy data. So building off of that, as I mentioned, we'll be cleaning up that 2016 data so that we can have a better apples to apples comparison. Because even small changes in methodology can kind of throw off the numbers. So. We'll also be conducting a street tree inventory as part of this project. So this will be actually on the ground, mapping individual trees, recording things like location, species, age of the trees, their condition, and then flagging any potential conflicts with nearby infrastructure. I know that the city has been contacted by multiple neighborhoods where we have kind of larger, more mature trees that were planted in very small vegetative strips, and now they are causing cracks in the sidewalk or roadways and having to be replaced. So we really want to make sure that we have a good plan moving forward in our construction and design standards where we can avoid that type of situation in the future. And then I think we'll also be hopefully looking to build upon this in the future to expand it out to include all kind of city-owned property as part of this. So I've included an example from the city of Bellevue who did a similar street tree inventory. The real thinking behind this is so that it can be used as a resource to kind of help prioritize tree replacement, pruning, and maintenance. The cool thing about the city of Bellevue's is you can click on individual trees in your neighborhood. If, for instance, you notice that one is down and you can click a link and automatically report that. And they can use that as kind of a quick resource to send someone out there or prioritize it for replacement. So finally, we'll be kind of synthesizing all the information from those previous steps, identifying specific goals and strategies that we can implement throughout the city, and then creating a more detailed implementation plan, designating responsible city departments, necessary funding or staffing support, and how we monitor progress kind of moving forward. So I don't know if this has been shared with this particular board, but I know our communications team has shared this with council. They recently put together a great resource for city staff called our Community Engagement Toolkit, which establishes some engagement principles, but also shares some best practices in terms of different types of mediums that we can use throughout our various city projects to make sure that we're getting substantive and good input. So we will be developing a more detailed kind of outreach and engagement plan once we do have a consultant brought on board. We are planning to still utilize our Engage Bothell platform, which we kind of trialed with our comprehensive plan updates and got a lot of good feedback from people that enjoyed that. It provides a little bit more direct kind of interface between the city and allows us to host things like interactive maps, surveys, and things like that that we might not be able to utilize otherwise. We also got some good input from those that participated in the comprehensive plan that they really enjoyed our in-person workshops where they were able to provide more kind of substantive feedback. So we'd like to incorporate those as part of this effort. And then just some other just initial ideas, looking at doing a community-wide survey, opportunities for residents to identify significant trees throughout their neighborhood, whether that be through like an interactive map platform or maybe a social media campaign. And then looking at tree planting events or giveaways, kind of like the one upcoming this Saturday. I did give this presentation to the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago, and they also suggested looking at partnering with Bothell and some of our other educational institutions to potentially look at supporting volunteer support on the street tree inventory piece. So maybe doing some guided data collection days where we can kind of walk through the process with people, have them download an app on the phone and kind of contribute to that inventory, which I thought was a great idea. And then I was just going to kind of make you all aware of a resource that is also available called the Tree Equity Score, which American Forest put together. So what this is it kind of scores areas of town that both lack tree cover, but also have marginalized communities or lower income communities. So it overlays tree canopy data with demographic data to kind of highlight that. It is at the census block level, so it's not very neighborhood specific, but at least can kind of give us an idea of where we should do some more targeted outreach. And then we'll be diving in more once we have updated tree canopy data to really get a more clearer picture of those areas of town that are lacking tree cover. With that, I will open it up to questions or comments, all of the above.
I have two. I think it's great. I'd love to hear about it. One just thought I had is we have on a couple occasions from some, I'm blanking on what park it is. I think it's up in like Everett. They sell you Christmas trees that you then bring back and they plant. And it's like a way to, you know, for them to offset the costs of the trees. Thought that was a cool project, but how is the board, how can we support? I understand our role as a board and what you read. How are we supporting this project?
So kind of how we envision it is that, you know, we'll provide periodic updates and maybe do some more workshop level with you guys once we get a little further along. And then, you know, we can incorporate that feedback as we kind of move throughout the process into the plan. That's kind of how we're envisioning it right now.
So are we encouraging street trees as well as trees in general, or just street trees?
So for the inventory at this point, we're just limiting it to trees within public right-of-way. But eventually, the idea is that we can kind of build this out beyond that. City of Seattle is a great example. They have probably one of the most comprehensive tree inventories I think I've ever seen, where literally every tree in the city is mapped and inventoried, which, as you can imagine, takes a significant amount of effort.
I know, it's a big city. Yeah, it's crazy. I worked on a program, I mean, this was a long time ago, 15 years ago in Seattle, where we're helping give away trees. People apply, but it didn't have to be a street tree. They could be anywhere on their property, which still offers the same value.
Yeah,
right?
but as part of this, yes, we are definitely encouraging both trees on public and private property as part of this. And one thing I didn't have a chance to mention, as part of this, we're hoping to develop some resources to support that. So updating our like recommended species list, but also providing some examples of kind of right tree, right place, examples of where you can put certain types of trees based on your yard or the setting.
Yeah, I've wanted street trees in front of my house for years, but the grass strip is this big and then a power line. So I'm like, where are my options?
Exactly.
Succulents right now. and grass, I don't know, but.
I don't know your name, but go ahead.
Hi. So I'm seeing that we're losing a lot of tree canopy to development lately, and those would be not counted because they're not public lands, they're vacant land, right? And I'm wondering how that factors in, but also if we're counting street trees as tree canopy, how are we accounting for the difference in soil to pavement because of the pavement versus soil has a lot more water runoff. So of course, the tree canopy does a lot to cool from the, sun baking urban heat island, but does not absorb as much water also.
Yeah, so our tree canopy assessment, that'll be looking citywide, so not just street trees, but private property loss from development as well. And usually where they start as part of that is kind of breaking out land cover classifications, kind of like you mentioned, impervious areas, areas with impacted soils that don't have as good a drainage as well. So we'll have that information to go off of and then be able to compare it between 2016 and today to really see, like you were mentioning, where we have had losses from either new development or things like that.
I'm also noticing that, we do have lots of parks that have really beautiful trails. I was kind of hiking through Blythe Park the first time today, since I've moved here fairly recently. But we also have a lot of, banks of blackberries and invasive species, and what kind of restoration I see some of the planted areas, riparian forest areas. We have more projects to plant on the stream banks and stuff that have blackberries. Was that off too much of a tangent?
No.
Probably is a little further from.
No, I mean,
particular project.
as part of this project, one of the things we want to look at is selection of tree species and making sure that that's appropriate, both in terms of climate change, as also like pest resistance and things like that, which might touch on a little bit of what you're saying, as well as potentially making sure they're resistant to invasives. We might, as part of this, we will be getting into trying to identify some priorities for planting projects. So that might be where we get into identifying particular shorelines that need restoration work and tying that into there.
If I might add, the former Wayne Golf Course that's connected to Blythe Park, there's a restoration project in planning phase, so that would include a lot of revegetation work and some small pieces on the front side of the golf course as well.
Yeah, I saw some recently planted areas there with signs.
I had a question about, so some of the funding, is any of the funding for this project dependent on Initiative 2117?
Yes, this is Climate Commitment Act funding. Our climate planning grant is from there. As far as we've been told at this time, no matter how the legislature ends up voting, this funding should still be available. And we are on a pretty expedited timeline to get things back to them by June of next year. So, yeah, I think it will be secure no matter kind of the outcome.
I just want to emphasize sort of a goal-oriented end product with an action plan, and using that tree equity analyzer. Because there's a new, I just was on a webinar, they're calling it TESSA, the Tree Equity Score Analyzer, which it sounds like it dives a little bit deeper, more specific, away from census block and gets a lot more specific, which I think could be helpful. And I appreciate you coming and talking with us and Planning Commission, but might it be time for a tree board for the city of Bothell?
Yeah, so as part of this, we'll be kind of evaluating both board structure and then also kind of internal city staffing capacity and budgeting as well. So that'll kind of be part of this kind of task one of assessing existing plans, policies, and then programming, which kind of captures board oversight and staffing and budgeting support as well.
So I have a couple thoughts. As far as the management plan, I think you ought to look at it in two different ways. So you got the street trees, so open right-of-ways, that's one animal. I think there should be a management plan for that. And then unopened right-of-ways, open spaces and parks would be completely different. I think they're two different management plans, and I really strongly suggest you keep that in mind.
As well as private property too.
Decide, well,
Yeah.
and then how far do you go in intruding into people's private
Well,
property? You don't
yeah.
know.
Right.
Yeah, I would.
Encouraging, not intruding.
I would encourage not to try to, get into private property. Let's get the public.
That's the bulk of our city that was private property, am I not? I mean, if we're talking Tree City, that's the bulk is private. It's not, I don't think we should ignore it.
Yeah, I
I'm not
guess.
saying ignore it, I'm saying, you gotta watch how you regulate. You're gonna come and
Oh,
tell me.
I'm not saying
why you like
regulate,
that.
I'm saying give away free trees and teach.
I mean, give away
teach and
trees,
give
that's a
away
whole
trees.
nother story.
Yeah, no,
But
I'm not
really, I would-
saying regulate at all.
I would suggest that, trees, like species suitability, I would really, we're zone 4. I would consider some exotics. I know that's kind of sacrilegious in some places. I would not put those in natural areas. But along the streets, you can probably get some great trees, great growth habits. It's not even concrete. You get good coverage. I would consider that. Inventory, again, so if you have volunteers, how are you going to know species? How are you going to know health? That's kind of tough to really get good data there without having professionals. And I would suggest you pay a consultant to do that knows what they're doing. Just a thought. And there are firms that do canopy assessments, but you could do that in-house if you have the expertise. Oh, God, what else? Inventory. Like, I've worked in Seattle, so I know about the inventory there, and it's spectacular. I worked in Shoreline, it's not the best. We're kind of doing the same thing. I would, once you get that established, you got to put resources to maintaining that inventory, and because it gets away from you really quick. Development projects that take out trees in the right of way. I have not looked at our code, but there's got to be code on how they can plan or where they can plan them. I'm sure you probably have an ALU fund if they're doing that, which I would discourage as much as possible. Make them have them on site there, but I mean, there's instances where that happen, but it gets, if you don't keep up on it, it just gets away from you right away, and pretty soon you don't have data, really good data you need to maintain them. I'll be quiet now.
Well, what are the codes for new developments? Because it feels like,
Yeah, I was going to give you all a little more context. So currently how our code is structured, any new development over a certain lot size kind of triggers the tree preservation or landscaping requirements. And usually it's a certain percentage of the existing tree cover. And then typically there's more of an emphasis on preserving trees over a certain size. So that's kind of how it's structured currently. But as soon as that development is complete and transfers to private ownership, there's not really we don't have any protections really for individual trees after that.
anyway, as part of this plan to strengthen those requirements so that they
Protection
have
policy.
more trees?
Yeah. And I think that's why City Council is particularly interested in starting things like a heritage tree program to really emphasize the significance of these larger, more mature trees throughout the city.
Yeah, they're cutting down these huge conifers and planting 10-foot little deciduous trees. It doesn't seem very equal.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time for those trees to grow and mature. So.
Yeah, they grow to 15 feet or something, and they're not even, deciduous and conifer trees are very different acting beasts, especially in our wetlands.
I spent a day in Tacoma, DNR, and they had this workshop, this joke that Tacoma is the best at being last. And so they had some of the worst tree canopy coverage in the state. And they have developed a really unique partnership program. I think it's with the Tacoma Tree Foundation. So the city works really closely with a NGO to reach people to do a lot of work in private property, sort of like we're discussing, tree giveaways, right-of-ways, all that stuff. There's a lot of really interested NGOs in Bothell related to trees. So I would encourage you to reach out, and maybe having that partnership would help access and make improvements on private property.
Honestly, I think the public wants trees. They're just don't know how to do it, to be honest. They're scared that any tree they plant will fall on their house, and that's not true. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't know.
Yeah.
So education is key.
Do you have a prior canopy assessment?
We do have the 2016 one that I mentioned, and then
So what was the coverage? I'm just kind of curious.
I want to say the numbers were something like 40 to 45%. So
Which is spectacular. I just want.
yeah. And one of the benefits of Bothell.
Like 26 or something, like 23.
Yeah, one of the benefits of Bothell is, we have a significant amount of wetlands and critical areas that are heavily protected by our critical area and shorelines ordinances. So it's really more so a focus on areas outside of there where we want to kind of hone in on this.
Totally understand. I'm just,
Yeah.
just want to put out there.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not at all.
I wouldn't get caught up too much though in those 2016 numbers. Obviously, a lot has changed since then, and we've seen a lot of development. So
Yeah.
presumably that number is, it's way out of, like you said, we haven't maintained the data. So you're going to see a decrease there for sure.
That Tessa tool will tell you if it's gone up or down. Kind of cool.
To real quick revisit the list of approved allowed street trees. Last time I looked, which was quite a while ago, I think when I first moved to Bothell, when I wanted to put a straight tree, there was invasive trees on that list. I work in restoration, and there's trees that I have my crews kill in natural spaces. I'm like, this is not good. Norway maple, planted along the police area there. Those are all Norway maples are on the King County invasive tree species list. So making sure we're not encouraging people.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it was last updated, but it's probably due for.
I'd like to mention that the EcoNet put together a little pamphlet on trees for small lots. And we did a workshop here in Bothell and also in Mukilteo and in Everett and a couple other places where we invited the public to visit trees that they might want to take home with them. And, if they found a tree that was appropriate for their place, they could take it home with them. And, the pamphlets had things like, how big is it going to get? And does it like lots of sunlight? Does it like lots of water? And things like that. And they were all native species. That's been out there. And then also like to mention Lake Forest Park has a reputation for having a strong tree ordinance. So have that on your list of cities to compare with when you're developing this.
Okay. Great, well, that's on to Aaron and talk about Park at Bothell Landing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Cameron. So on to the Park at Bothell Landing. We have the open house here at the council chambers, 6 o'clock to 7:30 next Thursday, 17th. So we're moving out into our third phase of engagement. We started in the learn phase. And we went to the explore phase where we kind of assess these 3 different conceptual design options. And now we're moving into this decide phase. So at this open house, the intent of it is to really understand from a community level we heard correctly in the first 2 phases of engagement, the direction that the community wants to see Bothell Landing heading towards. So we'll have our consultant team on board, Benita and Ryan, who you've all met here. Sean from SHKS Architects will be there as well. They will give a short presentation, probably about a half hour long. After that presentation, there'll be some opportunity for some question and answer. large part of the presentation, they'll be going over like some of the site analysis work that we've done. That'll involve some of like the critical area study work that we've done that helped us influence where we're at with the project today. We'll be looking at, there'll be a summary of the public engagement phases that we all went through together. They'll talk briefly about the three conceptual design alternatives that we also worked through, and then they'll be presenting the preferred concept plan. So that'll be the assemblage of all this work to this point. From what we've heard from our community, we'll have a plan that will be discussed, and they'll explain how we got to this point, and then we'll give the community an opportunity to provide input and feedback based off that, give us an understanding whether we're on the right track or not. The way we'll go through, it'll be like a workshop setting. We'll have several tables set up, similar to the Boards and Commissions meeting as council a couple weeks ago. Each table will have an opportunity to kind of make comments and draw on a site plan, any changes or things that they like with the plan. The tables will have opportunity to discuss amongst each other the plan and the concept, and then there'll be an opportunity to share back that information. So the consultant team and the city will take that feedback that we hear from the community. There's a potential that based on what we hear back, that preferred plan could change a little bit. And then we'll be taking this preferred plan to the Parks Board, ideally in November's meeting, for opportunity to approve it before it goes on to council consideration.
And Aaron, if I could just add, so right now, council consideration will likely be in January. We have run out of room in our meetings for the rest of the year. So we'll be pushing that to the first couple meetings in January to take that to council for approval.
So once again, 6 to 7:30, that'll be the first opportunity to see the plan. I encourage you all to be there. It'll be good to kind of hear what the community has to say about it as we move into that kind of opportunity to approve the plan moving forward. November. Is there any questions on?
If we cannot make it, is there another way to see the plan?
We do intend on putting it on our website, making it available after the open house. So you have an opportunity to take a look at it at our website.
Are the critical areas reports done and?
Yeah, like the wetland delineation's been done. I mean, we've done an exercise where we've looked at our zoning. We've sat down with our planning department to make sure that we're in compliance with all our zoning requirements, the shoreline buffers and all that. So yeah, that analysis has been completed.
Did it shift things?
No, it didn't. Actually, we're really fortunate that our zoning allows for this space at that particular site. So there was some foresight that was done a number of years ago. So we are, like, the things we're proposing within those areas, like the What's Up concession area, the boat launch, those are all areas that fit within the current zoning. There are definitely facilities that are intentionally placed outside of those buffer areas.
That open house is at Bothell Landing or is?
It'll be right in the city council chambers, yeah, just next door.
And it has, you said different tables from different, like, fields and?
There'll be just several tables set out. You can sit at whatever table you want. It'll just be an opportunity, it'll be like a round table setting where you have an opportunity to talk to your about what you'd like to see.
That's next Thursday, 17th at 6 to
7:30.
Yes, I'd encourage everybody to help get the word out about it too, to make sure that as many people in the community know that it's happening and that it's, a chance to weigh in on the project.
If anybody else has any other questions, I'll give a quick update on a couple other projects. All right, so playground project right now, to give you an idea where we're at, The city council approved some critical areas work that needs to be done, some survey work and critical area studies. So we're just wrapping up contracting for that. That will happen in the next couple weeks. And based on the survey work, we'll send that back to Harper's Playground, and I'll make the adjustments to the conceptual design that we all talked about several months ago now. So that project is moving forward. And Madrazo Park is currently at 90% designs. So the city's currently reviewing those plans right now, those drawings right now, and we're on track to begin construction in the second quarter of 2025. So that will come to fruition next year. The bridge and demo project, bridge designs are now complete. The project will go to bid shortly here, and we're looking to do the bridge repair on the front nine at the former Wayne Golf Course in spring 2025. As far as the buildings go, the hazardous material surveys and historical property reports have all been done. So kind of like the groundwork that prior to the demo, that's all been completed. We're looking to put that out to bid and do that demo work next year. The former Wayne Golf Course Master Plan RFQ is currently drafted. So an RFQ is a request for qualifications. So it's an advertisement to landscape architect firms to help us through the master plan process. So that will go out sometime likely in November. January, we'll probably get really rolling with the former Wayne Golf Course Master Plan. And then lastly, the pros plan is also in the works. So we have an RFP going out for that. That'll likely be advertised either in November and December, and we'll be rolling full speed ahead in January. So those are a quick update on the projects.
We have one additional RFP that we're creating right now. If you were paying attention to recent council meetings, there's been an ask to put out an RFP for someone or an entity that might be interested in doing some sort of night market on Main Street. So a seasonal night market, basically from Memorial Day through Labor Day, once a week. Not really, kind of loosely defined, trying to figure out if there's any nonprofits or anyone out there that would be interested in producing something like that. So we're busy with a lot of creation of RFP and RFQs right now. It's taking up a chunk of our time.
A couple questions. Very exciting about Madrazo. One, will there be a groundbreaking ceremony? Seems like a big momentous occasion. Yes?
Can I touch on that really quickly?
Sure.
So, as you know, this project has been sitting on the books for a number of years, and at one point we were heavily engaged with the family. We've intentionally not re-engaged with the family until we know this project for sure is moving forward. Because we've gotten it to all the way to a point where it was permitted, we went out to bid, and then we pulled it back. And that was really tough for the family. They've since moved out of the community. They live in Hawaii now, but we're going to be reaching out to them before we do anything. But we want to make sure that we are set, we've got our construction, and we're moving forward.
Well, in hand, sure. My second question was on the former Wayne Golf Course Master Plan in the CFP that was just released. The language in the CFP says that the plan will be except for the designated salmon habitat on the east side. It also says except the active use area on the west side. So I was just, wondering how the community will give feedback on things like trail alignment that run through the salmon habitat restoration area and how that's being incorporated into the RFP that's going out.
That language has since been revised, and it's probably still that same language within what's posted on the website currently. But we took the feedback that we heard from a couple meetings ago. We had that discussion at the park board, and that's been removed. So we intend, and the RFQ is written currently that include that 4-acre parcel. It will not include the salmon restoration area, although there's going to be some consideration, obviously, with trail alignment and all that area.
I might take the liberty to ask a couple budget questions.
Absolutely.
Okay. I scanned through what was posted on the website from the city. And so I just wanted to clarify to make sure I understand everything that's on there. So it includes 2 new maintenance worker positions.
Correct. We were advocating for 2 new maintenance worker positions, and not to add to new projects. It's really just we're really far behind and we struggle to maintain what we have. So this is to maintain what we have and continue those operations. We're a 7-day-a-week operation. We have 10 full-time maintenance workers. We have a situation right now where we have a couple of them out on leave. So operating, in that kind of environment is really tough when you have 400 acres, you've got multiple, public facilities. We've got 26 parks. It's one of those things to really address what the need is right now. We'll also, as part of the capital facilities plan, be adding in a maintenance and operations component. So with every plan, you'll see what we kind of think that will increase, what kind of resources we need, whether that be full-time, positions, part-time positions, and then the materials and equipment that will be needed to maintain these projects when we build them.
Okay, and then the next line talks about like some ARPA and shifting into general funds, and it mentions a recreation coordinator, and a parks planning and grant manager. Can you give more clarity on?
Yeah, so both of those positions were directed by council when ARPA funds became available. We were directed to use those funds to pay for those positions. So that would be Aaron's position.
Okay, is parks planning and grant manager,
Which is
defined,
so that's Aaron's position.
not parks planning and development manager? I'm just trying to be clear.
Yeah, that is Aaron's position.
Okay.
So that is what we're talking about there. And then Blaine is the other person who is
Okay.
ARPA funded. We do have a plan to move forward, in the next biennium to address both of those, but we have to get through this one first.
Different titles, same positions.
Okay.
Wait, so you're adding their budget, like if that doesn't go through, their positions are gone? Or you have to advocate for it each time?
We have to advocate for positions every budget cycle, so.
It's not additional, it's just.
Yeah,
we
so
need
what
to
happened
maintain
was
it.
the ARPA funding it's no longer available. So we're transitioning, all of that into the general fund for the next biennium. We'll have that discussion in the next biennium. Obviously, capital projects, planning, all of those things are really important to continuity of operations. And then really looking at implementation of pros plan, things like that. So we have a plan. It's a little further out to sustain those positions as well.
Can't help myself. So when we had Scott here a while back, one of the questions I asked was, what would be a game changer for you in operations? And he said a recreation coordinator position.
Yeah.
Sounds like do the field stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you said that would be a levy conversation. So that's not what this is. The recreation
not.
coordinator written in here is actually Blaine, who is special events and,
Yeah.
okay.
Just
But that-
title
but-
change?
But we have sort of reorged that responsibility. So what I would say is that you've met Tanisha. Tanisha has a master's degree in recreation. She was a recreation manager down in California. And she's actually going to be taking over the management of those fields.
In addition to Denise's old admin role.
Correct. She's adding that.
Is there a sense that like everybody's doing 2 jobs though, instead of,
I mean, to be honest, we're a really small organization.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, we've only been a parks department since 2015. If you look at our, FTE ratio to the amount of acreage we have, to the population that we have, we are the lowest. So we've got to continue to build on that. I will say that since we became a parks department, we've doubled our size. But we still, we're going to have a lot of conversations next year when we're talking through the pros plan about what does that look like. So when we think about recreation, we used to offer recreation. Bringing back a recreation program, potentially all those resources and what does an implementation plan look like? What kind of staffing do you need? What kind of resources do you need? What kind of facilities do you need in order to do that? So we're going to have a really comprehensive discussion about that and how do we grow and what does the community want? So that's all going to be part of that pros plan discussion, which will also sort of build into a potential levy discussion.
My last question is, it doesn't dive that deep into like all the little nuances, but it does give some good nuggets in there. What about like new equipment, things like that, that are critical for operations?
Yeah, so we have an asset replacement program, so you're not going to see that really in detail in this. That's our operations budget. I will say that we've added a number of pieces of equipment in the last 6 months. What we did was we had our allocation, for this biennium. We underspent it by a significant amount of money, and a lot of it was just capacity. So instead of pushing that forward to the next budget, we went ahead and used that money to purchase some of the equipment that we needed, that we were going to try to push into this budget. If that makes sense.
What are those? I'm curious.
We recently purchased a Ford F-550. It's basically a large truck for towing equipment. We were underpowered for a lot of the equipment that we were towing. So that gives us the ability to, really tow equipment and be efficient in that manner. We've been using a lot of surplus vehicles. So our maintenance lead, for example, has been driving the old Chief's car.
Yeah.
He's getting a new little Maverick truck, it's perfect for the role that she has. We replaced our recreation van. So we had a recreation van from 1980. I mean, it was as old as could be. We literally we couldn't drive it this year. So we replaced that with a passenger van. But the passenger van, we can go ahead and remove all the seats, and we can use it for community events. We can, take stuff to and from. We can, if we do field trips again, we'll actually be able to put you in a van, and there's a lot of benefit to it. So, those are just some of the small pieces of equipment. There's even smaller pieces of equipment that we bought. With the leaf season coming up, we bought another big leaf blower. This is one that we don't have to attach to a tractor, but it's actually a stand behind, and you can. It has a motor on it, so it's propelled, but it's a stand behind, and it pushes a lot of leaves. As you know, a lot of our sports fields in particular have a lot of trees that drop a lot of leaves, and we have to get them off as quick as we can. So we have some bigger leaf blowers to do that work.
Quick question on the staff. Are you back to what you were pre-COVID? I know during COVID, you're still not back.
Nope. No, I mean, if you think about the recreation programming, we're just not there yet. We never brought that back. Pre-COVID, we were offering 200 courses throughout the year, whether it was, dance, art, safety.
I more meant though, the number of staff that you have now.
Yeah, we're not back.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're building on it though. And I don't want to make it sound like we're in sort of a bad place. I think we're in actually a really good place.
I mean, Aaron doesn't seem busy at all.
I mean, there's no question, our plates are full. There's no question. And that's part of that story that we're going to continue to tell. We're going to continue to show. I mean, it's not anecdotal. We can show data. That's, that other piece of it. As we take that deep dive with the pros plan, you're going to be able to see that. We're going to do those comparables. You're going to look at all the agencies around us. You're going to see what they've got in comparison, and we're going to work through some of those things. What does the community want? Ultimately, if this does go down a road and we go out for a levy, we want to make sure that we understand what is it that the community wants before we ever go to that step. And if, at that point, it's up to the community to really decide what level of service do they want, what, all these other things. I will say, we're small but mighty. We have so many things going on. Our days are all over the place. And to Whitney's point, 2 jobs, I think sometimes we have 10 jobs. It just changes on almost an hourly basis sometimes. And we go off and do these other things. The night market might be a good example of that. Didn't think that was going to be on my plate, but here it is. So we react to those things.
That's for the good of the order. you guys next week, open house.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to have a motion, do we? Sorry. I'd invite a motion.
Second.
Made by Nick, seconded by Jace. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, good night, everybody.
Those you want to.